and then have to make a drastic change. In the case of Lennox, it was a major change because he had to fight a guy who was much taller, and he was not used to that. But I think in this case here, Marquez would be able to handle the adjustment very well because he's fighting a guy who's still a right-handed fighter, which is what he's probably been working with most of his career.
If you watched Marquez's little brother Rafael knock out Timmy Austin earlier this year to take over the bantamweight division, you saw his hard right hand, the knockout punch that put away Austin. Marquez, more of a technician than his little brother. Brilliant with the jab when he's on. Good right hand behind it. Has every punch in the arsenal. Juan Manuel Márquez lost his professional boxing debut May 29, 1993. Since then, he's had 41 fights, and he won 40 of them, losing only a questionable decision loss to Freddie Norwood in a truly horrid fight in Las Vegas back in 1999.
Marquez is a very balanced out fighter, seems to be very adept at doing everything. I think it's going to be a great fight if he ever fights Antonio Barrera one day.
Well, he's constantly compared to both of his Mexican countrymen, as I mentioned, Marco Antonio Barrera and Érik Morales. I think he's perhaps a solider puncher than Morales and a more consistent fighter. Morales seems to be up and down like a yo-yo according to his opposition.
That's true, and this guy's been very consistent in all of his fights that I've saw him in. And I guess he's got a good sparring partner in his brother, too.
And a terrific trainer in Nacho Beristain, who's had a long and colorful history and trained several champions, including Daniel Zaragoza.
Most all of the great champions that's coming from Mexico in the last 10, 15 years have pretty much come from his stable down there.
Hard uppercut thrown with the left hand by Marquez, well placed.
Licona came in with a reddened nose.
Licona soft around the middle. He claimed he had been in training for a fight a little bit down the road, but no one expected Licona to show up at 133 pounds.
Yeah. And people are saying that it was unprofessional of the Golden Boy Promotions to send him into this fight unless they knew for sure he could make the weight. That's Oscar De La Hoya's promotional company. Licona is doing a little bit more boxing or trying to box here than advertised.
At this stage, his defense has been fairly good, too, surprisingly.
Biggest punch of the round was an excellent left-hand uppercut by Marquez. And as we go to the corners where they speak Spanish, our interpreter is Hector Garcia.
You're standing there too close to him. You're throwing punches, but he's throwing at the same time, and he's hitting you. Give me the grease. He's throwing at the same time, and he's heavier than you. You got to use that uppercut and use your left hand. Go to the body and use that right hand. Use that hook underneath, and then your left hand. You're doing well.
Though Licona and Marquez are Mexican born, Licona has never fought in Mexico. Marquez hasn't fought there in 9 years.
It's typical of most of the Mexicans. They are pretty much not only fighting often in America where the money is in the championship, but they actually training most of the time in America.
CompuBox numbers in round one. Marquez 14 out of 48. Measured start. Licona only 4 out of 35. Larry talked about how Licona entered with a red nose. He suffered a bad cut to the nose in that lost to Vasquez, Angel Vasquez, back in 2002.
Great combination by Marquez. He's placing his punches very well, in particular starting off with his left hook to the body often.
Marquez is routinely patient, takes his time and waits for the good opportunities. He says if he had one thing to do over in his career, he wouldn't be quite so patient against Freddie Norwood. Waited on his chances that night, they never came.
Well, that's part of a learning experience. Licona is fighting a very intelligent fight at this stage. He's fighting very much on the same pattern, the same tempo as the champion is. Placing his punches, pretty good defense.
But Marquez lands a right hand over the top and a solid left hook. It's going to be hard to knock Licona around in there. Licona enjoying what appears to be a weight advantage. Larry, you were at the weigh-in. What do you suppose Marquez really weighs?
Well,
127?
Well, they had to put a pair of pants on him and maybe a stack of quarters in each pocket.
To get him up to 132 after he'd originally stepped on the scale at 27, right?
It's the first time I ever saw a fighter have to leave a weigh-in to put on weight.
As you said, so it would be certified.
Licona trying to go to the right hand with the body, and Marquez counting upstairs with the left hand. They trade shots in the middle of the ring. Generally, it's Marquez beating Licona to the punch.
But Licona is a little bit slower, but he's very much in this fight at this stage.
Triple left hand by Juan Manuel Marquez. Marquez treating Licona with a lot of respect.
Licona is meeting him punch to punch at this stage.
Hard right hand down the middle by Marquez. Two rounds in. Tuesday, tune in for the premiere of this month's Real Sports with Bryant Gumbel among the stories. The sad tale of former heavyweight champion Riddick Bowe, now behind bars, serving time for having kidnapped his former wife and children. That's August 19. Real Sports. Nothing is out of bounds.
We got to start throwing more punches, okay? And I want combinations. Move your head side to side. Don't throw yourself on top of him. You have to be a little faster, okay? You have to move your head back and forth a little faster.
Here Marquez lands a couple of lefts and a little bit of a right. Good left hook. He appears to be a little bit tentative, perhaps because he's not seeing the Licona that he expected to see.
No, I don't think anyone. And he hasn't been able to establish any real dominance at this point. The fight is still pretty much going nip and tuck. A little bit favoring Marquez, but he haven't really dominated.
Good left hook to the body by Juan Manuel Marquez.
Licona comes from an apparently inexhaustible supply of really tough, rugged, and schooled Mexican fighters.
And a lot of these fighters, too, have fought a lot in the amateur tournaments here in America. They still are considered Mexican, but they've been raised and spent a lot of time here in America.
Marquez risking a big right hand over the top. Licona tried to come back to the body. So far, Marcus Licona, billed as a brawler, has boxed. And that seems to have slowed the pace of Juan Manuel Marquez, although he's finding plenty of chances to get that left hook to the body in.
Well, he tells us his favorite movie is Raging Bull. No Raging Bull tonight yet.
He being Licona.
Yes.
Yeah. Cheery little movie, that Raging Bull. He likes all the laughter, I guess.
Maybe he watches it on tape while he's cleaning yachts.
Marquez with a good counter left hand upstairs. Now he feints upstairs and goes to the body with the left hook again. A lot of subtle skills, Juan Manuel Marquez.
Yeah, Marquez is doing beautiful body shots. But a lot of the guys who train in the gym nowadays, they exchange left hooks to the body so much, particularly in the California area, that they're used to those body shots.
A double left hook to the body and then a right hand by Marquez. Marquez doubling and tripling the punch output of Licona when they're in the center of the ring.
And the most effective punch in the entire fight has been the left hook to the body, Marquez, at this stage.
Now he begins to fit in the right hand over the top, but Licona gives as good as he gets in that exchange. Another solidly landed right hand across the top by Juan Manuel Márquez. But Licona's so big at 142 pounds entering the ring tonight that for Marquez, this might be a little bit like hitting the heavy bag.
Oh, yeah, it's punching on a big, heavy target. It can absorb a lot more punishment than a smaller ring.
At least he's getting the land punches. Might not have been that easy against Derek Gainer.
Derek Gainer is a tall, rangy southpaw. I think he may be, you know, getting off maybe a little better tonight by getting a slower guy and smaller guy.
Just don't rush, okay? You're just throwing punches. You're doing fine. You got to use the right hand. You throw more punches, more combinations. 1, 2, 3. More. Got to use your combinations. That left hook. You don't want to use it. Come on. You got to use that left hook. He's hiding from you. He's got to respond to your punches. Come on. You can hit him. He's throwing at the same time you're throwing. You got to beat him to it.
Round 4 of a scheduled 10 between Juan Manuel Márquez and Marcos Licona, fighting well over the original featherweight limit for the bout. Licona, a last-minute throw-in substitute for originally scheduled opponent Derek Gainer. Harold Letterman, how do you have this through the first 3 rounds?
Okay, Jim, 30-27. 3 rounds to nothing. Juan Manuel Márquez. Jim, I tell you something. What I love about Juan Manuel Márquez is, number 1, he always gets off first. Number 2, you don't know what the heck he's going to hit you with. Sometimes he throws that double left hook. Sometimes it's a straight right. Sometimes he goes to the body. Sometimes he just goes upstairs with it. Always changes up. Keeps faking constantly. Jim, one thing on the rules. Larry Hazard a number of years ago in Jersey started using that duct tape on the gloves to tape the laces so you can't heal a guy. You can't cut him with the laces. California followed with the red duct tape. Now, if you notice, they're using it here in the Mohegan Sun.
As the fight seems to be progressing, Marquez seems to be getting more comfortable, getting into his rhythm, whereas it seems as Licona is kind of looking and feeling, seeming a little bit more uncomfortable with the whole situation now.
Marquez clearly no longer apprehensive about Licona's greater size, letting his hands go in offensive flurries. You saw the triple left hook. You saw the 3 jabs in a row, followed by the right hand. There again, doubling up with the left hook. Juan Manuel Márquez, very technically proficient fighter.
Yes, he is.
Good balance, good footwork, punches with authority. Licona also punching with authority, but his connects far fewer and much farther between.
And the speed is starting to slow down. It's not as crisp with his punches as it was in the first couple rounds, whereas Marquez is equally as sharp and as crisp as he was in the first 3 rounds.
Right hand to the top and then underneath to the uppercut.
With the same hand. Beautiful
Terrific
execution, yes. And earlier I saw him block a punch with his left elbow and then throw a punch with the left hand at the same time.
And now the left uppercut followed by the left to the rib cage.
Yeah, doing so many different things, and at this stage of the fight, it's hard for a fighter who's getting fatigued to even think to keep up with the different things that he's doing.
It would be so exciting to see Marquez face off with Marco Antonio Barrera because they both have so much game.
2 of my favorites.
Tremendously skilled.
Remember, he's throwing the same time you're throwing. He's looking to hit you on the head. You gotta just bend over like that. He's looking to get you. He has no chances left. Go on the knee. There's 5 rounds to go.
You see here how Marquez is landing clean blows. Good fighters don't get hit with those kind of clean blows very often. Licona is not an A-level fighter.
No, and the gap is beginning to widen as the fight progresses too.
To put it charitably.
Licona is averaging 44 punches thrown per round, but landing fewer than 20% of them. Marquez averaging 52 punches thrown per round, pretty measured output, but landing more than 40% of them.
Nacho Bernstein has had a great year as a trainer, having 2 good champions coming out of the Marquez brothers, both Rafael and Juan. And they're both very good technical fighters, good condition.
Bernstein says the one thing he'll never do with a fighter is talk knockout. The goal is always to win as many rounds as possible and see your left hand raised. If a knockout happens, it's never by plan. Of course, that's one thing when you're training a fighter like Zaragoza who isn't going to knock anybody out, you know? Zaragoza couldn't have knocked people out with a shovel, but still won an enormously high percentage of his fights. And Marquez is a different story.
Different story, and I love knockouts.
You can bet the fighters think about him.
And especially after the way we saw all these recent decisions, you don't never know when you want to fight if it's going to a decision nowadays.
Licona able to get in a couple of body shots there as Marquez was popping him upstairs.
Licona's got a good chin. And I should say a good body too, because he's taking some tremendous body shots in addition to shots to the head.
You wonder sometimes if a fighter like Licona, who's been moved up against a quality opponent, could turn out to be too brave for his own good.
Well, he hasn't been getting hit with too many shots. It's completely clean. His shots have been halfway deflected shots for the most part.
Larry, for entertainment value, we want him to be braver than is for his own good, right? We'd prefer that to the opposite.
Well, I only mention that because it's obvious that he is not in supreme condition for this fight.
Between rounds, we'll get a look at a 140-pound prospect who performed on the undercard, an unbeaten fighter from the Bronx, who's arousing some attention in the sport. The 140-pound weight class, overwhelmingly rich with talent. Here's another face who could be part of the championship mix in the future. We'll show him to you in just a minute.
Very impressive fighter tonight.
All right, the prospect's name is Jeffrey Resto. Look at how tall this 140-pound fighter is. As he takes on a young fighter from West Virginia who was tough and hung in, but didn't really have a chance against Resto's long body and terrific skills.
Resto is from the Bronx. He's got a Mexican mother and Puerto Rican father. He's an outstanding prospect. From what I've seen of him on several occasions, I'd make him the favorite over any of those 140-pounders from the Olympics.
Including Miguel Cotto.
Including Miguel Cotto, who I like and who is a very good young fighter.
Emmanuel?
I pretty much go along with him. I was very impressed with him. All the way around. Physically, such a strong man to be so tall, too. Fights with so much spirit.
Great energy level. Jeffrey Resto. We expect to see more of him in the future. Juan Manuel Márquez has worked in the past as an accountant when not boxing. He's hoping in the future to make enough money to put his accounting skills to greater use.
Yeah. Well, he's on his way. I think the way he's looking now, he's going to be headed for some big super fights with the guys like Barrera.
He's waited a long time. That loss to Norwood in 1999 virtually stalled his career at a time when there might have been a groundswell for him to fight either Morales or Barrera had he won.
Yeah, and then there was another misstep when his camp turned down an opportunity to fight Prince Nassim before Barrera did for business reasons, but it turned out to be a terrible decision. Unfortunately, sometimes, and this is the difference maybe between Marquez and Barrera and Morales, is that he can fight like an accountant. You don't often
Méndez 2 left hooks.
You know,
and another great left hook.
Yes. And a right hand and a right hand.
I wonder if Licona, if he didn't weigh 142, if Licona were in here at 127, I wonder if he could have stood up to that stuff.
Personally, I would say no. I think the weight is making him able to absorb the punches, in addition to having a good chin.
Marquez has landed some very solid artillery in these last 3 rounds.
He's landed with some great left hooks to the head this round. Earlier, he was landing with a lot of right hands on the top and left hooks to the body. So Licona doesn't know what to prepare for.
And now Marquez doubling and tripling on that solid jab and landing with the left hook again. Remarkably accurate punching by Marquez.
He get in the fight like a well-oiled machine, much like Antonio Barrera.
Juan Manuel Márquez has made the adjustment to fighting an entirely different style of opponent than the one he expected. He's well on his way to an easy victory, winning every round, landing more punches, delivering combinations more or less at will in a brilliant offensive show so far against Marcus Licona. Tuesday, it's Real Sports with Bryant Gumbel. Among the features, a look at former heavyweight champion Riddick Bowe, now in prison for kidnapping his former wife and children. September 10, Inside the NFL. Join award winners Bob Costas, Chris Collinsworth, Dan Marino, and Chris Carter for another season of highlights, picks, and insight. September 13 on HBO pay-per-view, it's the rematch between Oscar De La Hoya and Shane Mosley. As in 2000, this should be one of the best fights of the year. And 3 days later, it's the premiere of the documentary The Curse of the Bambino. Frustrated Red Sox fans detail why their beloved team hasn't won the World Series since before Babe Ruth was sold to the Yankees.
Just lower your, throw your punch, lower yourself, and move your head side to side. Let's go.
In round 6, CompuBox found Juan Manuel Márquez landing 20 of 39 power shots. That's 51% of his power shots. We mentioned Marco Antonio Barrera. Those are Barrera-type numbers. Harold Letterman, how do you have it through 6?
Hey, Jim, let me ask you something. Does anybody know who the referee is? Because I haven't seen it clinch the whole fight.
Richard Flaherty of Braintree, Massachusetts.
6-0, 60-54, Juan Manuel Márquez. Jim, he's just too quick, got every move of the book. Really, it's clean punching, effective aggressiveness, getting off first, and landing great combinations. 6-0, Márquez.
Unless my memory has failed me, the gentleman who's refereeing the bout was the judge who scored the 9th round of the first Gaddy Ward fight, 10-7 for Mickey Ward, and ultimately that made Ward the winner in the fight by a single point. So in case you ever wanted to put a face with that name, that's the man in the background. Licona pounding with a left hook. Coming forward with the right hand to the body. Licona still giving a spirited effort, although outclassed through the middle portions of the bout.
Even though he's losing the fight, he still made it very competitive and always keeping Juan Marquez alert. Every time Marquez finishes up with a combination, if he relaxes, Licona will come right back with something. See there?
That's fighting. Licona says he was born to be a fighter. Couldn't have imagined any other career. Although he's thinking that he might want to buy the boat cleaning business he's been working in down in Newport Beach.
He's not doing very well at cleaning the yacht in front of him.
Well, that's an awfully good yacht. We are at the Mohegan Sun in the woods of eastern Connecticut, one of the most spectacular facilities to be found anywhere in the world. What a superstructure. You walk around here and you say, this place is amazing.
You got to use a little better combinations. You got to use little combinations, move side to side. I want to see more cleaner combinations. He's hitting in the body. You got to move back.
Marcus Licona just looked over at our announce table and gave us a kind of a weary nod. Looked as though he would have liked to have mustered a smile, but couldn't quite do so. Total in round 7, Juan Manuel Marquez 15 out of 47, most of them power shots. And Licona 10 out of 42.
You know, Licona has never been knocked out before, and that might have been a factor in the decision when Golden Boy Promotion decided to take the fight, figuring they had everything to gain and very little to lose, and that he wouldn't embarrass him.
He went the distance against Larios, and though he lost by lopsided scores, he and his followers thought the fight should have been marked closer.
He's fighting one of the greatest, I think, most talented fighters in the world today, and fighting a very credible fight.
But he's also a useful foil for showing how dazzling Juan Manuel Marquez's offense can be when he gets it going. Great display. And if Marquez has a big fight coming up and he could talk him into it and pay him the right price, he would be great for sparring. Tremendous sparring partner. In fact, you know, Marquez may be a little disappointed that he's likely to have to go the full 10-round distance to get the win tonight, but assuming he doesn't get caught with anything big from Licona, it's going to be great work for him. And it's impressed me that he can fight at this pace and still have good punch and pound accuracy going into the final rounds of the fight. You know, just to the naked eye, his body looks stronger than that of Marco Antonio Barrera. Of course, Barrera is deceptively strong and so quick with the left hook. A lot of guys just have that body makeup. Larry Holmes was never one of those, what you say, cut guys, but physically one of the strongest heavyweights of modern times. And that's the way some guys are built. Even Julio Cesar Chavez was physically one of the strongest guys I have ever trained. But a lot of guys are just not cut that way. Good left hook by Marquez to finish that exchange. If you talk about trying to match him against Érik Morales, slightly different style. Morales more vertical than either Barrera or Marquez. Likes to come over the top with the right hand. We haven't really seen Marquez have to fend off a punch like that here tonight.
But as you said earlier, you know, Morales has not been that consistent in recent fights. He looked good in some fights and looked ordinary in other fights. Where Marquez and Barrera has been very consistent for the most part in all of their fights the last few years.
Well,
and therefore, it's the difference.
Well, but Morales gets up for the big occasion.
Great uppercut.
Down goes Licona on a brilliantly thrown uppercut by Marquez.
And it's a punch he never even saw.
Can't throw that punch better than that.
And he says that would be the first time he's truly been knocked down in a prize fight.
That time he was on the canvas.
And hurt.
Been charged with 2 knockdowns before, but he said one of them was a glove touch and the other one should have been ruled a slip. On this one, he wouldn't have an argument, I don't think.
You know, Marquez has thrown so many different punches from different angles. He's been hitting with right hands, he's been left hooks to the body, left hook on the chin. And then he comes up with a right uppercut. It's almost like cheating.
Here's a look.
All right. Right uppercut that you saw. Licona's doing the best he can. He's trying to compete. He is simply outclassed.
He lunged just a little bit with that right hand, left his chin hanging out there, and Marquez said, thank you.
And Marquez got great eye concentration and focus, too.
Go over there. Over there.
I think that Smoke Gainer's pectoral muscle just got pulled again when he saw that knockdown. He is here in the audience, by the way.
Yeah, his quote to me was, well, I had to travel up from Pensacola to see this guy firsthand. Wanted to see him live. Ringside, good place to watch him.
Yeah. Gainer's still a southpaw, very big, tall guy, and boxes very well. I think he still would present some problems to Marquez.
Early in his career, we wouldn't have thought Derek Gainer would have the punching power to bother anybody, but he dramatically improved his punching power over the years.
But what's happening by letting Marquez get these fights on him is making Marquez improve and improve and improve, where he's sitting and becoming stagnant. And Marquez has been a very busy fighter the last few years, fighting top competition.
He was looking tonight for a 10th consecutive knockout and 11th in his last 12 fights. He's still got 4 minutes and 50 seconds in which to try to pull it off, although frankly, I think it'd be surprising to see him score a KO against a guy who came into the ring at 142 for a fight that was originally contracted at 127 pounds.
Yes, and I think that Licona has good recuperative talent. So that right uppercut was just a punch he never saw at all.
How about that left uppercut, left hook combination you just saw? You know, I've seen some guys who could effectively throw left hook, then left uppercut. But left uppercut, then left hook isn't as easy.
I've saw some of the most unusually executed combinations coming from Barrera and now with Marquez of any fighters of modern times. They do unbelievable things.
And it's because their balance is so good that they can do anything with their hands.
All the time in perfect balance.
This is becoming target practice for Marquez, who's batting Licona around the ring.
Yeah, and Licona's not coming back with the return shots as fast as it was before earlier. See, earlier he would always come back with combinations after Marquez would finish up. Now he's not able to do that.
Licona punching from the back seat now as he has his weight shifted back, hoping to get away from some of the artillery that Marquez is leveling on him.
Yeah, just hoping to survive now. He's not trying to win the fight. He just wants to be there when the last bell rings.
I agree with you, Larry.
Hard right hand.
Right hand.
Rocked Licona, open to cut under his left eye. Be interesting to see if Licona can make it through the 10th.
That's it. That's it. I'm cut.
It may be that his corner is using that cut as an excuse to stop the fight. It's probably a fight that should be stopped.
I think at the end of the 8th round, the fight for the most part ended anyway.
Licona only threw 25 punches in the 9th round.
The cut is too big. Stop the fight. No mas.
No more.
No mas.
You heard.
So the fight will be stopped, and the knockout streak continues for Juan Manuel Marquez. A 10th consecutive KO for Marquez in what I saw, guys, as a pretty outstanding offensive performance.
Great performance tonight. Great diversification of combinations.
He's a beautiful craftsman. The question would be against a Barrera or Morales of whether he has the kind of spirit they do. What happens after you get hit and hurt?
Would he be confident in the